more.
It's Monday, everybody, so you know what that means. This is a family show, and we're bringing in a member of our family who is fresh back from a trip to the mainland and wearing quite the festive Yuletide sweat. That is not an all an ugly sweater, Landon, with the National Weather Service. That is very, very, very jolly.
I was trying to go for my first ever ugly Christmas sweater theme, and this is as close as I got. Brought to you by Walmart in Louisiana, so a great find, but there's more to the story. My favorite ever Christmas movie, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So, and we all need a little Christmas vacation.
Wait, is that Christmas Vacation or is that Home Alone?
Christmas Vacation. Actually, no, it is Home Alone.
Yeah.
I just watched National Lampoon's on the way back on Friday on a flight, and so that's my favorite movie. Next, ahead of Home Alone 1 and then Home Alone 2.
There you go.
So, and then Tim Allen's The Santa Claus, that was always a classic. So,
okay, and just side story, everybody out there, if you consider yourself a fan of movies, if you do not consider Home Alone and Die Hard as Christmas movies, you know, we can't hang out because you're not one of the cool kids.
Yeah, definitely Die Hard. That's another good one, and I cannot find it on Netflix. I can't find it on United Airlines. I had 5 flights over the course of 3 days last week on the way back over here. It was just chaotic. I was in 9 different states for work and then a few days of leave. So it's been a crazy last 2 weeks, but I'm glad to be back and still trying to get my feet back on the ground, having computer problems, getting logged into my systems. So it feels like I've been gone for several months, but here I am.
No. Well, hopefully the very nicely decorated office you came back to and everything like that, like helped you get acclimated.
And I'm definitely behind in my house because I've just not had the time this year. And I was supposed to be on 2 weeks of leave the last 2 weeks, but of course that was canceled when I was called for duty in the States on the Gulf Coast. So I might decorate after Christmas. We'll see. Maybe I'll have it all done by New Year. But in the world of weather, there was a lot of action while I was away. We had that typhoon pass near Palau and then became a super typhoon with some rapid intensification as it barreled through the Philippines. We are watching another system well to our south. Of course, this is no threat to us. But here locally, we are not looking at too much weather. If you start out your day early, we had some showers passing through the islands, and that continues. They've had upwards of a half-inch of rainfall in Saipan over the last 5 hours. This is going to be indicative of the rest of the day. We have this little push of moisture coming right through the islands, and this will be drying out shortly. Upper-level clouds coming up from the deep convection to our south, and that's all related to that tropical disturbance down there. That is Invest Area 98W. It's currently rated as sub-low by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. So it's very weak, very early in its formative stages. And again, this poses no threat to the Mariana Islands as it's generally centered the low-level circulation near Pulaut and is expected to track westward, again, toward Yap and Palau, which is the last thing they want after taking the brunt of that tropical storm about a week ago. So this is going to be tracking their way towards Christmas. We'll be watching that closely for them and communicating it as such. Farther to our north and more relevant to our region is this shear line. This is the old decaying cold front that's zipping off toward the east, well north of us in the North Pacific. We're going to see this old frontal boundary sink slowly southward towards our area, giving us a little bit windier conditions and a better uptick in showers.
Yeah, Landon, would you
this week?
Would you have an estimate? I mean, because like we're looking at a scaled map, obviously, like with your projection and everything like that. But that is a huge amount of square footage right there. Would you have any estimate about how big across this front is?
Oh gosh, right off, I can't venture a good guess. I'd have to do some calculations. I don't have my glasses on at the moment, but I know our area of responsibility, which is this red box right there. This is the WFO Guam area of responsibility. That's roughly 4 million square miles. So keep that in perspective. It's a very
that's a
broad
massive
area.
Front, man.
And so it's a very strong front, and it goes all the way from well in the North Pacific, with Hawaii is right over there on the far right-hand side of the screen. It goes all the way down into the northern Philippines, with where they have that northeast monsoon, as they call it, and then the still screaming Category 2 Typhoon Rai that's still spinning up towards Hong Kong, but it's going to stay offshore of Vietnam, the Chinese coast, and maybe as the weekends go up towards the far south of Taiwan. So
Yeah,
that's going to be
Chris is
around for
over
a
here
couple
just
more
like
days.
absolutely fixated on the screen, and you know he loves full frontal.
Yeah, and we definitely get that. And so this is time of the year. We're going to see these cold fronts, these shear lines drop down. And once these shear lines do drop down over our area, they can and do that from time to time. They will pack in those strong gusty winds and much drier conditions. So once that frontal passage comes over, our dew points drop. It gets cooler outside, not so much the temperatures, but it becomes noticeably drier. So when you're swimming in Tumon, you have one of these things pass through. You get out of the water, you're going to have some chills. And so that's going to be the theme for the next several months. So that's the good news. Quick look at the radar and go ahead and pull up the slides, Jason. We'll get talking. Not much on the radar, just some spotty showers pushing through. And that's going to be the theme for the next 5 or 6 days as we go into Christmas. And go into our slides, we're going to go into more of the detail about what to expect in the week ahead. The risk of rip currents is moderate along north, west, and east-facing reefs. We have a trade wind swell and then also a northwest swell from the strong winds well to our north. The Guam fire danger is up to moderate now as the rainfall kind of tends to taper off just a little bit. The severe drought Kempingan-Merangi continues, and we are watching the tropical storms in western Micronesia. If you look on the image on the right, that's our webpage homepage. We do have a new button right there in green, Christmas Fraser Fir Green. That's a submit a storm report. We did add that to our webpage. If you go to the next slide, this is more details about that. Click on that link. If you have damage or storm impacts at your house, we want to hear about it. And so this is one way that we can keep tabs on what's going on in the community, because we are in the office. We can't see what happens across the island, especially when we have these rain events in the wet season, the flash floods. If you have flash flooding, we want to hear about that because it helps us with our forecasting and also reporting on storm events as well as damage events and surveys. So
very cool.
When to send a storm report, click on that link in the middle, when to send a storm report, and different parameters that you can report on. We want to hear from you, and this is the way we really want to reach out to the community. And it's a simple Google form at the bottom of this link, and you just fill out that information, your name, where you are, and just about the event. And so we want to hear about that, especially as we go into the wet season next year and tropical cyclone starts spinning up. Right now we're going to be in a lull because we're on the dry season, and things will taper off for the most part. The next slide, not so much to speak about. Kind of cool here at Guam, 75 degrees, a little warmer up north in Saipan, 78 degrees, where they had some showers overnight. Rainfall for Guam, we are above average for the month and the year. We are about to break over 100 inches for the year. What day will that be? It'll probably be around Wednesday after we get some showers late Tuesday into Wednesday. We'll be watching that. The next slide, this is our Facebook page. The night shifters posted this last night showing that depiction of the shear line to our north sinking slowly southward. Will it make it to Guam? We'll probably feel the leading edge of that around Tuesday night. Wednesday we'll get some showers and more weather. And that disturbance near Chuuk, that's going to keep to the west, and more about that on the next slide. Currently not on the Joint Typhoon Warning Center public page. It's rated sublow. Once it gets upgraded to low, that's when it pops up in a yellow circle on the screen. So right now that is not on the public facing page. And then the next slide, this is the continuation of Category 2, Typhoon Rai, just east of the Vietnam coast. And that's going to be recurving up toward China, Hong Kong, and then clipping by southern Taiwan as it quickly dissipates in the coming days. As far as our seas and surf, not too much to speak of out there. The waves will be holding steady with the trade wind swell. We do have that northwest swell that's going to be zipping around toward the north, but that's going to linger around through the week with the strong winds north of that shear line. But combined seas roughly about 6 to 8 feet for the week ahead. Nothing too significant there, but there will be a moderate risk of rip currents. And the last slide, the outlook, not so bad for Christmas Day. We will have periods of isolated to scattered showers, a surge in showers probably Tuesday night, Wednesday, and then also Thursday. I know there's a couple of events going on at the governor's complex on Thursday with the drive-through. The Guam Territorial Band will likely be performing out there. I'll be talking with them later today to set those details up. So check it out. They'll be communicating that likely once all the events and people are confirmed for that. And so Christmas is in full swing, and Christmas Day looks to be pretty good for the most part.
Man, and we really wish a speedy and safe trip to both Santa Claus, his reindeer, and the U.S. Postal Service as they make their way around various parts of the island.
Yeah, we've been asked about that if we're working with the North Pole, and we are in communications with their weather folks at the North Pole. So we're keeping tabs on regional weather, and we are a go for Christmas morning. So
very cool. Also to the U.S. Postal Service, we hope those guys, maintain their mission. They've been coming around on Sundays too, so they're working tirelessly. I wanted to skip.
They are loaded.
Yeah, I wanted to skip real quick back to that one slide you had about the about how that storm. You said like it's a Cat 2 now and everything like that. Interestingly enough, as it's gone pretty much over the Philippines, and you said now heads towards the east coast of Vietnam. When most storms make landfall and everything like that, that's when they kind of like if they're seabound storms and everything like that, do they normally dissipate? Because this one looks like it went right across the Philippine Islands and everything like that, and now it's heading towards the much larger mainland.
Yeah, that's the case. The Philippines, when it passed over the Philippine Islands, it did take a little bit of a beating. It was a super typhoon when it made the initial landfall. I forget how many landfalls it made as I'm looking behind the screen. I think it made like 7 or 8 landfalls on the various islands, causing significant problems. And reports on the ground that I've heard from friends with Pagasa and others in the region there was that the impacts in Bohol and Cebu were worse than 2013's Haiyan. And so that was a very notorious storm because of its storm surge in Tacloban City. The storm surge was not quite as significant with this storm, but the winds were stronger for many provinces. So that's one of the caveats with this one. But once it passed through the Philippine Islands, that warm source of water and fuel for the tropical cyclone was still there. And so it was able to hold on to its intensity as it went towards Vietnam, and now it's making that curve. It's getting into a little more hostile environment, so it's going to weaken significantly once it starts gaining latitude.
Right. Yeah. So again, like best wishes for our friends in the Philippines who are dealing with some pretty rough stuff now, as well as it makes its way towards Southeast Asia.
Yeah, and we'll be watching that 98W as it makes its way toward Palau in the coming days. That's the last thing they want is another storm, especially around Christmas Day. So we'll be communicating that frequently this week.
All right. So before I let you go, you are pretty much the preeminent expert on all things Christmas and everything like that. It's Monday. Christmas, of course, is on Saturday. All the kids are out. I know you're super pumped and everything. Can you give us a Landon's pro tip, #pro tip, on how to shop?
On how to shop?
Yeah, with but 4 days left.
Go early. Go to bed like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And then wake up early, drink lots of coffee, and get going as soon as the store is open. I think Ross opens at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. That's the best time to go. Avoid the crowds, beat the crowds, and get out there early. The parking lots are insane. If you have not been to Micronesia Mall in the last couple of days, it's insane.
Is it?
That's the first thing I did when I got off the plane was like, oh my gosh. But go early, beat the crowds, and then when it starts getting crowded, that's when you can start people watching and
plan your shop your plan, man. Sounds like a good strategy.
Yeah, go with a plan.
All right. Well, we wish you and your family, of course, a very Merry Christmas and everything like that. If anything happens, of course, you're always welcome back on the show. You've got a standing invite and everything, but we wish you the happiest of holidays.
Thank you very much, Jason, and Merry Christmas to you all as well.
All right, man. Rock and roll. Thanks so much. Landon Idlett from the National Weather Service. We have Senator Joanne Brown coming up in just a few moments, but we want to share this very heartwarming story to you, as with Christmas, of course, on Saturday. Our